What's going on? Caesar here at the Shootaround. I'm here with my man Terrence from Bounce Magazine, aka Lower East Scribe. What's going on, man? How's everything doing? You're a writer now, but you obviously played ball in the past. What was your first memory of basketball? Like the first time you remember, like the ball in your hand?
My earliest basketball memory. Every Saturday there was like a neighborhood league, and like all of us, we would all watch NBA Inside Stuff before the games.
Get hyped up.
Yeah, I remember seeing Vince Carter do like a reverse windmill, and then they cut it with Dr. J when he did the famous,
under the basket
on the side.
Yeah.
And I was probably like, I don't know, maybe 12 or something like that, and I was just like, yo, you know what? I gotta go outside to try it. So before the game, I spent like a whole half hour, hour just doing it.
So did you get it? You got
Yeah, I got it. It wasn't as much elevation.
Vince, but you got the move.
I pulled it off. You know
Okay.
What I'm saying? So.
You know, even as a writer now, there was a point where you thought basketball could possibly be your future, but like somewhere in between, when did you realize that basketball is what you were gonna like dedicate your life to, like following it, like that was your passion?
Well, I mean, you know, we all from the city. We all have that same hoop dream.
Yep.
And mine actually came when I was a junior in high school, going into my senior year that summer. I went to a 5-star basketball camp.
Okay.
And I was playing, you know, holding my own. Like Bassey was there.
Yep.
Sean Singletary, who was like a big player.
NBA guys. Yeah.
There was a lot of guys there. And J.R. Smith, he basically stole the weekend, or stole the week. Like he was doing a bunch of windmills and 360s and jumping higher than I'd ever seen anybody jump. And I was like, yo, I know I can never do anything like that. So how can I stick around in the game? And at that point, I actually was turning into a pretty decent writer.
Okay.
And you know, I just was fortunate enough to figure out, like, yo, this is what I want to do. Like, I know I can contribute to the game, you know, by giving a bit of a player's perspective. Like, you know, I played enough. I know enough guys that respect me.
So as you were coming up and learning, like what was something that was just difficult to do?
I mean, the one thing I'll say, like, my game's a lot like Rondo. I'm not the greatest shooter, but I'm a really good passer. So that was probably something that took me a long time to develop. But now I can pass in my sleep. You know what I mean? Like bounce pass, no-look pass. My favorite thing. I mean, Magic Johnson is my favorite player of all time. Okay. And that's because he was like the master of
passer.
You know. Incredible passer, so that's probably the one thing that I feel like I could do with anybody. You know, I mean, it's a certain touch you gotta have. You know, you gotta be able to kind of gauge as you're running. Like, should I put this amount of spin on the ball?
Right.
I think I surprised a lot of people too. Like sometimes I'll play with guys, and you know, even overseas guys, and they'll be like surprised, like, yo, Terrence
just surprised when the ball lands in their hands, like, oh, he made the pass.
I'm whole throwing no-look pass, and they're just like,
okay.
Yeah, all right, you know, so.
So, I mean, now at this point, you're covering basketball all the time for Bounce, but you do dope work there and other stuff. But when you're like not covering basketball, like what do you do to kind of like just take the break from ball? Like,
I'm the only person I know who uses basketball to get away from basketball. Because my younger brother, he plays AAU, and you know, he's really heavy into it, and I'll go watch him. You know, when I don't want to think about the business aspect of it for myself, it's just fun. When I just watch him and his teammates, you know, that's what I enjoy, you know.
So the goal of the NBA, like for all of us, you know, like at that point it's just kind of like out the window. Like I said, that hoop dream is gone, but I'm sure you still have a lot of goals now as a writer. What's like the one goal that you're still kind of working on and trying to, you know, strive towards right now?
Well, I mean, I feel like for writers, especially a basketball writer, there's a few publications that's like your NBA, right? So, I mean, I'm still working on writing for Slam. I do want to do that. That's always been a goal for me. Writing for ESPN, something that I want to do. Eventually Sports Illustrated too, and I think that it's important because it's like, you know, I'm an inner city kid. And that was part of the reason I became a writer, is that I felt like all my heroes, they looked like me, they were from my situation, but the writers weren't. You know what I mean? So it was like, I felt like there needed to be a balance. Like, who could tell, you know, a guy like John Wall's story better than somebody who was like from that situation, or like Steph. You know what I
Okay.
mean? Like, he's from New York. You know, he was like one of my favorite players growing up. Why wouldn't I want to, know where he comes from? Or I do know where he's come from.
Right.
So why wouldn't I be the person to?
Let's tell a story.
Yeah. So I feel like if I can put it at that level and use the way I write to tell their story, that's my opinion.
Okay. So, I mean, you've interviewed a lot of people and you've talked to a lot of guys that, myself, all our fans would like never get to talk to. Who was like the best interview you ever did covering basketball?
Wow. John Walls was interesting.
Okay.
Because it was like the day before the draft.
Okay.
And so it was just a lot of fun because he's, big. Like
Right.
he had such an aura about him because of everything he did in high school.
Yeah.
And his background story and what he did at Kentucky. There was one recently though it was just cool because the conversation we had was just it was a lot of fun. Jason Terry.
Okay.
I spoke to him, and it was obviously right after the finals, and we spoke a lot about just him being underrated in high school, and everything he had to fight for respect. He's like 6'1" maybe,
Right.
100 and
Right.
60 pounds, like.
He's an NBA champ now, though.
Exactly,
So,
and-
can't tell him anything.
And he had a lot of heart, and we talked a lot about that, and that was really it was a fun interview, what I mean? Just to talk about him winning the chip, and it was a lot of fun.
Terrence, check for him, Lower East Scribe. We look out for your stuff on Bounce and everywhere else you write, and hopefully one day see you Sports Illustrated, read that article, and be like, yo, we knew him when he was just a scribe, but thanks for sitting with us.
Well, thanks, Steve. Appreciate
All right.
it.